Midnight Society just released a brand new gameplay trailer of Deadrop, giving us an updated look of where the game is in its development cycle right now, still pre-early access release. They also held an AMA with Creative Director Quinn Delhoyo, as well as some of the other members of the team, giving new insight and details into the development of Deadrop, where we're headed, where it's at now. It's a lot of good stuff here. The first thing you're going to want to see is this trailer. It's a first in-game look, especially with motion gameplay, of an arted map in Deadrop. We did a video the other day showing a ton of in-game screenshots released on ArtStation, but now we have an actual gameplay trailer. Apologize for the quality. This was only streamed in Discord to variants and founders. I think it will come out publicly soon in higher quality, but this is what we got for now. I want to give a shout out to Omen Monster, who made this available to me. I was not able to capture it myself because I was actually filming yesterday our next live action Deadrop short film. So with no further ado, let's watch this trailer and then we'll talk about it and everything in the AMA. We'll summarize everything for you guys. All right, so what did you pick up in that trailer? A lot of stuff, right? The map you're seeing used to be known as Proving Ground 2, has been in the game since Snapshot 6, or been around in blockout form since Snapshot 6. It's now called Atrium, which is part of Sector 2, and clearly has a residential palette. Again, we saw a lot of art of this map in my last video released on ArtStation, and there's some interesting changes here. Obviously, we're bringing the world of Deadrop to life here. You're seeing, still not final, but a closer look to what Deadrop maps and art and graphics and visuals will look like. I love the dark, gritty look and the aesthetic here. It definitely feels like that concept art, right? That dark, gritty 80s, 90s alternate version of the future post-climate wars. We saw what looks to be a subway extraction method in this trailer, a silenced pistol, explosions, a lot of good stuff, right? A Deadrop map being brought to life, which is great first and foremost. But then note that the maps are now called districts. So what used to be Proving Ground 2 is now Atrium, and that is a district. And there could be multiple districts within a sector. So if you've been following Deadrop for a long time, you know that there were concepts for 7 different sectors, and they all had different themes. That is still a thing, but there's going to be multiple maps per sector, which makes a lot of sense. So for example, we now have Atrium, which is Proving Ground 2, as well as Slums, which is in the founders testing. That too is a map within Sector 2, which Sector 2 is a more residential themed sector, or theme overall. Of course, we had an industrial theme with Sector 3 cold storage, but this makes sense, and Quinn mentioned this in the AMA, that they want to make sure that the tower, the refiner state, is this thing, right? And it's basically a city within itself, right? This thing is huge. There could be anything in there, and they didn't want to limit themselves to just 7 maps or whatever. So I always said that makes sense. So now you can have, technically we know of 7 sectors, but you can have multiple maps within those sectors, and the goal is for each sector to have its own unique identity. Like Sector 2, the residential sector with Slums and Atrium, has a residential feel. Sector 3 has an industrial feel, and we've got old concept art giving lots of other really great feelings as well, but also different gameplay styles. Of course, they want some maps to be more close quarters and some maps to have longer sight lines to be more open. And all these maps will eventually be filled with different secrets, potential PvE encounters. They talked about like boss PvE encounters that might take multiple squads. This has been an idea that's been around for a while. Of course, you got the hideout as well. And they were also asked, how many finished, quote unquote, finished maps are they hoping to launch the early access with? Right now, they're targeting 2 fully finished, fully arted maps, in addition to the hideout when the early access launches, which is still planned for 2025. I think we might see it first half of 2025. I'm kind of even hoping Q1, but that's just my personal hopes. And I do hope that they will continue the testing like we have all along of unfinished maps, whether it be through founders testing or a PTR, however they want to change that process in the future, because we know there's a bunch of other maps out there, right? We've got Proving Ground 3, there's stuff out there. We want to see this stuff finished as well. Going back to the differences between the different districts and sectors, again, there's going to be different gameplay styles, different movement options, different extraction methods, but possibly they talked about different weather and different, obviously we got shutdown mechanics as well, sector shutdown mechanics. They're specifically asked about weather. They said that's not something that they're working on right now, but it is something that they've discussed in how it impacts the game. Not just like it's raining and it looks cool, but in the Deadrop universe, is there acid rain? And is that a sector shutdown mechanic? Or does that change the way you have to play the map if, it suddenly starts raining and it's got this acid rain effect or things along those lines? So weather's not currently a focus. Obviously, the core gameplay loop and systems are right now, but they did talk about weather. And again, a lot of future talk about the sectors, districts, so on and so forth. Going to one district, getting a key in that district, having to extract with it, and then you have to go to a different district where that key is actually used. So kind of this multi-stage objective of having to get in, get a key, extract, and then go back into a different district, take it in with you, unlock a door, maybe you get some special loot there or items or whatever, high tier loot, or maybe there's a special PvE encounter in there. Really cool stuff, makes sense. A lot of what the team talked about was a big focus on VES, the core gameplay system and mode of Deadrop, right, which is a vertical extraction shooter. That's everything that they're working on right now, again, which is like the sectors, the districts, the maps, and then the gunplay, the movement systems, the rat versus claw thing, the itemization and progression. And progression was a big topic as well. So there are going to be, this is the plan, of course, any of this could change. There are going to be seasonal wipes, but there's also account level progression. So there's seasonal wipes with certain things like the vendors, maybe your vendor rep levels, or vendors might straight up just get replaced and maybe new vendors move into the hideout or the tower or whatever. So some of those things are going to be seasonal, right? But then there's also permanent progression, like your hideout and different rat customization, which they talked about having like Call of Duty style like perk systems you unlock to further customize your rat play style. And if you're not familiar in the current founders testing right now, you can play as either a claw, which is like your human, which can equip armor and so on and so forth, and extract, or a rat, which a rat is very fast paced, very light on their feet, agile, pretty much gankers. You're going in there just to get kills pretty much. You run on a battery, so you got to get in, kill a ton of people, and grief other people, and get out. They also talked about weapon progression. Again, kind of a very Call of Duty themed idea there, and progressing weapons and so on and so forth, as well as quests, contracts. There's going to be quests that are kind of easy, default type things, like go in the tower, get this number of kills, extract from this sector, whatever, get this many headshots with this many weapons. But then there's also, there's going to be vendor specific quests with different type of flair, certain, whatever ties into their particular story or the lore of that vendor or faction. And then there's also, interestingly enough, what they called blood contracts, which is basically their idea at a pseudo ranked mode or competitive play, which in those lobbies, it's going to be, people who've taken on these blood contracts, which are like high level stuff. So everybody in that lobby should be, basically queuing into, I want to do this tough objective thing, not together, obviously, but that'll be really interesting. And then also collectibles, obviously, which isn't exactly extraction, but it is another reason to play, stuff to go in, earn. And they talked a lot about why these progression systems are so important. and how it separates extraction shooters from just a battle royale, right? Is getting in, extracting with this stuff, which will progress your account or your seasonal standing, so on and so forth. There was also a great question about PvE, and the team talked a lot about PvE, which right now we know is the cleaners, but this is going to go further as the game gets to early access and gets developed even further beyond that. And one of the things that the team really highlighted is they don't want PvE to be something that's really mandatory and game-changing unless you want to engage in it, right? They want PvE experiences to provide something that fighting other players does not. Deadrop is supposed to be very fast-paced. Obviously, it is an extraction shooter, and it's definitely going to be fast-paced compared to other extraction shooters, but they want PvE to be something that players only really engage in if they choose to do so. You can run away from it. Again, they talked about boss encounters behind like certain doors. They talked about a vision for big multi-squad fights where maybe one squad is there, they show up to fight this group or this PvE boss encounter, and then another squad comes to gank them, but then another squad comes to help that team because they all also want a shot at the boss. Kind of like old school MMO feel is how they described it. I love that. I'm an old school MMO guy, so I personally love the thought of all that. And I also think there's a lot of potential for some really interesting PvE encounters or enemy designs beyond the cleaners, right? Like, can you fight a helicopter, for example? Just crazy. It's some type of, the Deadrop universe has a lot of really cool ideas and potential. So I don't know, some type of cybernetic tank warrior demon thing, maybe. I don't know. There's also a lot of talk about the Midnight Drive, which I don't know why a lot of people were calling the Death Race. That's fine. But basically the driving portion of Deadrop, which has been planned to be part of the game for a long time and was introduced in Snapshot 7, that's basically at a standstill right now. After the release of Snapshot 7, the team said that they focused everything to the core gameplay systems, the first person gunplay, the movement, the rat versus claws, the maps, the core gameplay systems, which are going to keep everybody coming back. So it is not cut. The Midnight Drive is planned to be in the game, but right now it's not a focus. And at the point of early access release, hopefully in early 2025 here, if all goes as planned, it's going to be kind of a scaled back version, and they didn't say this, I'm speculating, almost like something like, probably in my mind, like the Destiny ship thing, where it's almost like a loading screen, but you have some customization over it. You get to customize the look of your car and stuff, just like you can right now, I'm imagining. But they do plan to go back to it, develop it more, polish it more, refine it. And Quinn said, again, that it's important that it feels like up to snuff with the rest of the game, right? So it has to provide something important and of consequence to the player. It has to be challenging. It can't be the same track every time. It has to be different tracks, different themes to different I gotta stop saying sectors. Maybe sectors, but district, but it's not a focus right now. They will launch the game in early access with some type of car experience, and I think that's a good idea because I personally think that in the loot pool, there should be the car customization stuff, right? So when you're trying to extract these cool parts to customize your car, again, that's consequence, and you get to see that stuff on screen in your garage, so to speak. But then later down the road, they plan to really refine that Midnight Ride experience. I personally really enjoy the Midnight Ride, and I do think that it's gotten misunderstood to some extent, because I think once the game plays, once it plays like a true extraction shooter, and there are more stakes and consequences than we've had in earlier snapshots, because there's not a deep loot pool, there's not progression. Getting those good spawn areas is going to be more consequential, which is the whole idea of the Midnight Ride, was not to just be a cool thematic thing and to be like a badass, cars racing, everybody shooting at each other, driving down this highway in this cool Deadrop universe, the existence, but you're actually getting off whatever exit you want to get off. It dictates where you spawn on the map, and I think that's gonna be really important down the road when your actual raids and matches of Deadrop have more consequence. So I kind of think people have missed out on that part, and I am glad that the team does intend to go back and revisit the Midnight Ride, because I do think it could provide something really cool. I think in Marauders, the ship section, I always thought that was a great idea, but it was a bit undercooked. And I think the Midnight Ride can be much, much better than that. There's a bunch of other questions here. There was a question specifically about blockchain, crypto, and NFTs. You know, is Deadrop still going to utilize those platforms? And Quinn answered this one pretty generically, which was fair. You know, he was very transparent in this, and it was great to hear from Quinn. By the way, we haven't heard a ton from him during Deadrop's development, and it was great to hear from him and his insights and his answers. But he said that there's definitely plans, but they're not ready to discuss the things about the economy yet. So no specifics. He didn't. I think the thing to take away from this is the answer was not a flat out no, we're not doing anything with NFTs or blockchain or a marketplace. Obviously the marketplace was always going to be something because of UGC, right? People being able to make their own skins, sell their own skins, create their own experiences within Deadrop. That's always been planned from virtually day one. So what that marketplace looks like, what forms of payment it accepts, all that stuff, we don't know yet, but there's plans. That's what there is to know. There was also a question about the layoffs, which Quinn addressed pretty directly. I thought this was a good thing, and of course he said that, you know, it's unfortunate, but there was necessities due to the state of the gaming industry and things that happened within Midnight Society this summer. We all know what we're talking about, but he gave some pretty great perspective about, and so did some of the other employees, that everybody that they unfortunately had to let go, and nobody wanted to lose members of the team, right? There was no bad blood. Everybody said that they love the team, they love the project. Like, if there's ever a chance for me to come back, you know, please call. All those types of things. And he said that really made him feel good about what they are building with Midnight Society and Deadrop. Because look, this isn't something that's just one game. They are building a company and an IP and a world from zero, right? This is like a 10-year, 15, 20-year plan. They've been through some rough spots lately, but he said that morale is high and there's actually a renewed focus. And he's very confident in the team and the game and the future, because, you know, even though they've been through a lot, sometimes those tough times do give people kind of that extra motivation to clear those hurdles and overcome those challenges and really deliver and make the game and the studio a success, so that, you know, in the future they can bring, maybe some people bring, you know, to honor the work of their coworkers that they've unfortunately lost. They're your teammates, they're your brothers and sisters in arms, right? So that was good perspective, and I'm glad Quinn answered the question. Early access, as I said before, is still planned for 2025. They're looking to put out a roadmap around the January timeframe. And he said that, you know, despite the fact that they didn't want to delay the game past November, the early access, that is, past November, and the layoffs were obviously something that nobody planned for or was happy about. You know, him being a manager of the studio and a director, he said it does give Midnight Society longer to refine systems and polish everything even further. And he talked a lot about what they're working on right now, for example, is, you know, taking those maps that have been arted and fully designed and, you know, making them more interactive. So for example, on Slums, they've got like the camera systems, right? And they've got the vent systems on that map. More stuff like that, but attention to detail throughout the game. Improvements to the cleaner AI system, the PvE AI, right? Fleshing that out and making it more interesting, exciting, thrilling. They've kind of built all of the big pieces now, and now they're moving into the detail-oriented stuff to really make everything feel polished and refined, balanced, obviously. So that's that. And he also said, for those of us who are involved in founders testing, Colin said that we think there's a new founders test build coming maybe this week, but the VES founders testing is getting closer. Right now, the big focus is on getting matchmaking up and running and working correctly, because the rat join in progress really needs to function fully and properly to make the full gameplay loop be able to be tested, right? Like, if they're going to test VES, they got to be able to test the whole thing. They got all things in, right? You can't have just half and half or whatever. So it is coming. We're getting closer and closer. Matchmaking is the focus right now. And Quinn also said that they want in-person events to return someday, just like the Vegas event, the New York event, LA, Texas. They don't have anything planned right now, and it's going to be when it's appropriate, right? Both from a resource perspective, budget-wise, and game development wise, right? Because a lot of time and effort goes into planning those events, and obviously right now everything is going into the game to get the early access release out there. You know, he obviously said that he thinks it's great to be able to get the whole team together as well as the community, and he really stood by the importance of those events. I also gotta say, I've said it before, I would love to see the day when Midnight Society, maybe not, they don't have to do this, they don't have to go full sale, right? And, you know, do a whole event by themselves, but maybe attend existing conferences. You know, can they get into PAX events and have their own booth or something like that? I'd love to see that, because there's plenty of people in the community that attend those types of events as well, and they can act as little mini meetups. So that's it for this video, guys. A lot there. A lot of it is just kind of cementing things that we either knew from the past or furthering things that we knew. There's a lot of good info in there for sure. Confirmation of things. Everything's moving forward. Seeing the game in motion in that trailer. Seeing all these new screenshots and concept art that everybody's releasing. I love the song in that trailer, by the way. It's good stuff. It's so great to see Deadrop moving forward as a game, how far Midnight Society's brought it. We had a crazy summer with a lot of bumps in the road, but things have been progressing. This team's obviously been working really hard, very dedicated, and we're starting to see the fruits of that labor. I can't wait to test it further in Founders testing, especially once we get into VES testing on those arted maps. Oh, it's gonna be sweet. I can't wait for this game to come out, and for all the people who didn't understand the open development process and block out maps and all that stuff, to see what Deadrop is, have it out on console, all that stuff. So if you want more Deadrop and Midnight Society news, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Come join me on my variety channel, Mayor Reynolds TV, and join me on Twitch, Mayor Reynolds over there, because we stream FPS games like Deadrop all the time. I'm playing Spectre Divide quite a bit right now, but come join me in chat, Discord, all that stuff. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Mayor Reynolds out. This video is sponsored by G Fuel Energy, a sugar-free energy drink available in both powdered and canned form, and you can get 20% off using code MAYOR at discount. That's just MAYOR, M-A-Y-O-R. Right in checkout, it's going to get you 20% off. There's a ton of good flavors, including this new Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty flavor. If you need a competitive edge, guys, something to keep you up on those late nights, or just get you hyped for whatever the latest release is, look no further than G Fuel Energy and use code MAYOR to get a discount on your order and support my content and channel at the same time.